The other day, DJI released its official response to the FAA Remote ID proposal. Let's take a look at that. Coming up next. Hi everyone, Bill from Bill the Drone Reviewer, where I make drone and drone related videos. If you're new here, welcome, and consider subscribing so you don't miss any future content. With that, let's begin. The FAA Remote ID proposal has been a hot topic ever since its announcement the day after Christmas, December 26, 2019. DJI, through Brendan Schulman, their Vice President of Legal Affairs, came out with an official response. Ron Braun, Marcus Crawford, and I took a deep dive into that on Rotor Talk Live the other night. Let's play that clip in its entirety. All right. Now, we're going to go ahead and kind of shift gears here a little bit. Now, everybody knows about the FAA Remote ID, and we had dedicated a whole show to talk about this. And, one of the things that I have to say is there's been a lot of discussion about this. Now, I went ahead today, and I was doing some looking today, and I came across something that was real informative. Now, before I get to that, was Russ from 51 Drones, who has a great channel. He put together a fantastic video on FAA Remote ID. One of the things he posted today on Twitter, he's been out looking at the comments section for the FAA Remote ID. And one of the things that he said about it was that a lot of people are cutting and pasting and putting answers in there for their comments. And, first of all, before we get into our conversation here, one of the things that I highly recommend, guys, is, open up a Word doc or a notepad, type up what you're going to say, proofread it, spell check it, and then go ahead and put it in there, okay? And don't say, I don't want to see it, it's a pile of garbage, screw you FAA, or get vulgar with them. Be articulate, be clear, be to the point. Say, I think the FAA Remote ID proposal is not acceptable for, and then list your reasons, okay, and get into them. Don't go, leaving comments, because a lot of the comments that are out there are just, I think, a lot of what we're seeing is not very good. All right, let's go ahead and get into this now. You probably know who Brendan Schulman is. He's the Vice President of Legal Affairs for DJI. He has a great Twitter account. I recommend, if you get a chance, follow that account. Well, he put out and we're going to go over this here. We strongly support drone remote ID, but not like this. And I'm going to go ahead and share this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to read some excerpts from this. And then we'll have some discussion on this. Okay. Now, DJI wants governments to require remote ID for drones, but the FAA has proposed a complex, expensive, and intrusive system that would make it hard for drones in America, and that jeopardizes the success of the remote ID initiative. Instead, we support a simpler, easier, and free version of remote ID that doesn't need a cellular connection or service subscription. Read on to discover why the future of drone innovation in America is at risk, and how you can make your voice heard between now and the FAA's March 2nd deadline for submitting comments on the official government website. And there's a link for that here. Now, I'm just going to touch on some of these points here. Introduction, it says, everyone understands why cars need license plates. Drivers have to be accountable. But what if instead of just a license plate, your car was also legally required to be connected via internet to a privately run car tracking service that charged you an annual fee of about 20% of your car's value and stored 6 months of your driving data for government scrutiny? Would you think the government has gone too far? And then there'll be a link to this in the description. Brendan gets into a lot of good things here. The stark reliance on unproven systems could shut down expensive Hollywood productions, complex industrial operations, and even life-saving rescue missions. And I want to stop right there, because one of the things that I've said all along here is the technology from the FAA Remote ID proposal, it's not in place right now. And I think they put this on paper. Some people from the FAA got this together and then decided, we're just going to go ahead and put this proposal together, and they put pen to paper, but they never, I don't think the technology is there to be able to handle the proposal that they did. Now let's go ahead and go down a little bit further here. FAA inexplicably declined to adopt good advice. DJI may have been the first to deploy remote ID, but it wasn't our idea, and neither is a recommended way to implement it. In 2016, Congress instructed the FAA to convene industry stakeholders to determine how to accomplish remote ID based on consensus standards. The FAA convened 74 people to serve as stakeholder representatives on the agency's Remote ID Aviation Rulemaking Committee. 75% of those ARC members represented law enforcement, telecom providers, airports, security technology vendors, and others who stood to gain from remote ID, while fewer than 7% of the members would primarily face burdens. Despite the skewed membership composition, the ARC produced a final report that did not recommend a mandatory internet-based service. Rather, the consensus recommendation was for drones flying under existing FAA rules to perform remote ID via a radio broadcast, with network solutions as an optional alternative. The ARC's many months of work demonstrated how broadcast technology scored best for inexpensive retrofit, ease of compliance, and performance. Network-based solutions involved highest costs, burdens, and privacy intrusions. I'm going to go on down here some more. Between now and March 2nd, 2020, please take the time to read the FAA's proposal and submit comments at this link. DJI is preparing tips and suggestions for what to include in your comment, but we already see drone operators of every kind sharing ideas among themselves. So be sure to consult your favorite social media sites, user forums, and community groups. The FAA proposal is a watershed moment for the future adoption of drones in America, and the FAA needs to hear from everyone who could be harmed by its insistence on a complex, expensive, intrusive, and over-engineered remote ID solution. Together, we can ensure the drone innovation is protected and that the safety and security of the skies are assured. Okay, this is a lot, and I highly recommend you guys taking a look at the link and taking a look and reading this. This was really well worded, and take the time to read through this. Read through this because it's really well done. Gentlemen, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I'll start. So this is spot on. The only thing I didn't like about DJI's version of it is that anybody with that app, general public, can see where you're flying your drone and what you're doing. And I don't understand why the general public needs to know. I appreciate the authorities. If you're someplace that you shouldn't be, they want to be able to identify that drone. They want to be able to know where the pilot is at. But DJI made some great points in there. Why is the burden on us as hobby drone pilots to pay for a very complex system that nobody even knows if it'll work yet? That could break down and then nobody could fly. If the whole purpose of this is to accommodate commercial uses of the airways, which it is, then why aren't they paying or carrying the burden of what that cost should be? And secondly, just like they said, nobody knows where your car has a license plate on it, but nobody from the general public can look at your license plate and say, hey, that's Bill the Drone Reviewer. But the authorities can. Should be no different with drones. You don't have to, people can't track you in your car. You go down to the corner grocery store, the general public can't pull up an app and say, hey, I want to know where that guy's going. So why are drones any different than that? It is a solution looking for a problem. So that was Rick Smith's video was great on Drone Valley. He made some great points. Russ at 51 Drones did as well. And then this from DJI, I think, should be enough that we can coalesce as individuals, our thoughts, and we need to put our comments out there, just like you said, on the FAA website. The battle is not lost yet, and it's just like Rick Smith said, if it goes into place as is, it's definitely going to put a big damper on hobby drones, no question.
Ron, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm too, along with Marcus, is very concerned about the privacy aspect of it. Somebody in the comments, I already forget who it was, it's a while back already. He said that, people pay for OnStar, in their GM vehicles, and that tracks you. And he's right, but nobody in the general public knows where you are. You're only tracked by the car company. And that's what Marcus is getting at here. We don't care if the law enforcement tracks us, or even maybe the maker of the drone or whatever, but not the general public. And again, people have already broached this, may be illegal from the privacy aspect. Like, for instance, who's responsible if somebody tracks you from that app and comes and murders you?
Yeah.
Who is responsible? Is the people that make the app responsible? The FAA? I mean, who takes liability if that happens? And that's number one. And number two, also there's a lot of talk in the chat about Rick Smith's recent video where he went on a little rant about these new FFA rules. And one of his points was that, we're letting the commercial drones push us out of the airspace. If they're commercial drones, why aren't they flying above 400 feet? Why are they coming to our airspace? And Marcus touched it too. Now, why are the hobbyists taking the whole burden of the cost of putting this system in? If they're doing this for the commercial drones, they should bear the cost of this, almost entirely the cost of it, not the hobbyists. I mean, we were already here, we were here and we were doing well. We very little accidents. Our safety record was better than almost anything. I mean, Rick made this point. He said when they put trucks on the highway, whenever the trucks replaced the trains and put them on the highway, they didn't make the cars get out of their way. They had to coexist with the cars. They didn't clear the road off so the trucks would get through any faster, but they're doing it this time with drones. They're clearing the hobbyists off the road or out of the airways, so the trucks, in this case, the delivery drones, can take those fast lanes. And why are only drones being picked up? Why is it any other form of transportation ever have these laws, burden them or whatever? I hope that made any sense, Bill.
Yeah, that sure does, Ron. That opening paragraph where Brendan talks about license plates and tracking cars and things like that. Okay. Let's look at it in reality here. Okay. How many thousands of people are killed in automobile accidents in the United States alone each year? Okay. And how many people are killed by a drone in the United States each year? Okay. Let's zero. You're right, Marcus. Okay. Let's call that like it is. And I think you both brought up a good point in, about the commercial airspace. Why aren't they could fly at 1,000 feet, okay, or above 400 feet AGL, and then everything would be fine, okay? They wouldn't invade our airspace. And the other thing is, and I think a lot of people lose sight of the fact that commercial drones really are in their infancy. They've been talked about for a long time, but they really haven't been perfected, because the commercial drones that I've seen and the ones that they've used in Australia and the ones that they're using over in Virginia, they're more of a vertical takeoff and landing than really a drone. And they're pre-programmed. Okay. There's no first person view for the operator of the drone. They're programmed to go to a set of coordinates, lower the goods via a cable to the person, retract the cable, and then move on. I mean, that's pretty much what that is. And, from what I remember talking about with Ari, Remote Pilot Australia, I think is Ari's YouTube channel. He was saying it didn't work real well in Australia. He didn't view that as a success. And, we really haven't heard a whole lot about that. Now, I know UPS has touted, they showed this video where a drone was coming out of the top of a truck and then going and delivering it and all this. Okay. Things like, let's talk about, like, these drones. how do they operate? Obviously, they're going to be using, you know, batteries to do this, and they're going to have limited range and limited range capabilities. Even let's say they can fly 5 or 6 miles, okay? They're going to have to operate out of some kind of a hub, okay? And this is going to cost Amazon and UPS and other companies like that millions and millions of dollars. Why isn't that money, I think, better spent in, you know, building up their current infrastructure to, you know, work on deliveries? I know, you know, Amazon now has fleets of trucks in towns to be able to deliver products, and you know, UPS has been very timely with things as well too. So, you know, I think, you know, this, you know, as far as the commercial aspect of it, I think it's years off. I don't think we're going to be seeing that anytime soon. I don't think you're going to see your Mavic 3 being dropped by a drone and you're in your front porch and you're being able to take delivery of it like that. That's not going to happen for a long time. All right. The other thing that I wanted to touch on here is, you know, this whole thing about the technology. All right, as far as remote ID is concerned.
Hey, Bill, can I interject for a second?
Go for it.
I just wanted to make a counterpoint to what you were just talking about. Well, it's timely about why are they wanting to use the airways as opposed to improving what they have on the ground? I think that I'll be honest with you, that part of it makes total sense to me because there's a lot of room up there in the sky and you don't have to build as much infrastructure. And, you know, I know you're in a growth area, Bill, and I know I am. There's a lot of pressure being put on our highway system. So I think they're trying to alleviate some of that. And especially at CES where we saw where they were even talking about drone taxis, etc. I think that's the point of that, is they're trying to relieve some of the pressure on the ground. And I don't know why it all can't work together. I mean, I don't see why one has to be exclusive to the other in us as hobbyists. Either way, I think it can be made to work. But anyway, that's the only point I wanted to make, Bill.
No, that's good. And I'm going through some of the comments here, and I know Dan's in here, you know, and he's brought up some good points, you know, and you know, John of Drones brought up the FAA is asking us to agree to adopt a technology that does not exist sometime in the future, or else they'll make flying illegal and call the local cops on you. Yeah, yeah. And Okie Tom, he says delivery by drone, I think, will be 15 to 20 years away. I mean, you know, they're trying to force something here that I don't think is going to happen. And one of the other points that I wanted to bring up is this. Okay, if you think DJI is going to fold their hands and not do anything on this, and other drone manufacturers as well, you got another thing coming. Okay, because DJI's bread and butter, okay, as far as making money is concerned, both in the consumer space and in the commercial space, is in the United States. Okay. You know, they don't release their sales figures, but I can tell you this. Okay. They place a lot of emphasis on selling drones, DJI drones, here in the United States. So they're not going to sit idly by. And this proposal that Brendan put together, or this response that from DJI, was spot on. Okay. It really, with the exception of what Marcus said, you know, I agree with this 100%. Okay. I don't think that we're going to, you know, I don't think, and also to remember this, that someone had, and it may have even been Brennan, had talked to the director of the FAA, and he was in agreement that it was too complex and too complicated and needed reworked, because this technology is not available. It won't work the way it is. It won't work the way it's written down. Because if you properly architect, say, an IT system, all right, you've probably put it through some kind of a computer model, or you've probably actually physically tested it out somewhere, okay, in some type of a, you know, in some type of a building, okay. You've put this pen to paper. For example, I'll give you an example. Where, you know, I work for public supermarkets, and one of the things that we have there is a lab, but it's not a lab like you think it's a lab. Okay. It's a lab that emulates any kind of store that you want in public. And, you know, Publix has, you know, like what, almost close to 2,000 stores. It will emulate any one of those stores. Okay. and it has different combinations of equipment for each store. All right. And this is where a lot of testing occurs. And this is something I don't think that they have actually done. I don't think the FAA has done this. They've put this proposal together. They've probably written it down. They probably put it on a grease board. Probably said, you know what, this looks good. It makes sense. Let's do this. And it got to paper. That's my thoughts on this. That's one of the things that I'm seeing here.
Bill, can I interject real fast?
Absolutely.
I think a lot of big companies, they want to get this in place before the technology. They don't want to actually spend, we'll say, millions and billions of dollars developing all this technology until they're sure that these rules are going to be put in place. That's why we're so far out, even though I agree with everybody, drone delivery for the most part is not coming for 10, 20 years, but they want it. They want all the infrastructure in place as far as these rules and regulations before they start investing millions into this whole drone delivery system. So that's just the way big companies operate. They want everything tied up nice in a bow before they start investing heavily.
Yeah, Eagle Eye View Images, their airspace should be 401 to 500 feet. And that makes perfect sense, because if in the other part of on this equation, and we haven't touched on this, is the AMA. Okay, they're not a small organization. They have a lot of people, and I know that they've tried to organize this, because of anybody, okay, who stands to lose, they stand to lose a lot. I mean, the opportunity to go fly your model plane at one of their fields is something that now I'm a member, and I've actually been to a couple of their fields, and it's great. I mean, you got to wait your turn, because usually on a busy weekend, but if you go on non-busy times, you pretty much can get right up in the air. And that's the beautiful part about this, but about the way it is right now. But with these proposed rules, it's going to change everything for them. I mean, they won't, they usually charge, I think it's about $100 a year. Some clubs do for dues, and they help maintain runways, and they have picnic shelters and whatnot, and a lot of them. And there's a very nice one up by where I live. So, it's going to be a change for them as well too. And a lot of people don't take this into account. And, they're actually a fairly big organization. Now, as far as money is concerned, I don't think they have the kind of money there as far as the say is concerned, but I think they're trying to get organized and trying to have some kind of a response here. And I think they do need to have a response as far as that's concerned.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, it really does here. So, we're going to wrap that up right now. I think, like I said, I think DJI is not going to sit on its laurels on this one. And, we got a great response from Brendan on this, and, and let's see how this plays out. But one of the things that I want to tell everybody is this, and John of Drones, hobbyists versus lobbyists. That's a good one. One of the things is this, and I've already said it, and I keep saying it, guys, is if you want to respond back to the proposal, and there's links in this article to do so, to the comments section, okay? Be clear, be articulate, don't be vulgar, don't cut and paste somebody else's comment and take it as yours, okay? Come up with something original. I disagree with the FAA Remote ID proposal because, boom, it's too complicated. I don't like cellular service. I don't want to see them, I agree with it, law enforcement getting the information, but private citizens shouldn't get my information. List some reasons down there, if you need to do that. I think it's something that you need to just, have an idea of what you're going to say, type it up, and, put it in a Word doc or put it in a notepad, spell check it, and then put it out there. And also, you're not limited to one comment. You guys can go out there and comment multiple times. So please do so. I can't say enough to be articulate, to be clear, to be, to come across intelligent when you do make these comments out there. So, I don't know. I don't know. Gentlemen, do you have any thoughts about this? Any closing thoughts on this subject?
Yeah, mostly, Bill, I'm going to say that everybody just put a thoughtful letter to the FAA out on their website, respond to it. This is our opportunity, and this is our only chance that we're going to get to maybe have an effect on it. You also might consider writing to your congressman as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Good comments, Marcus. And I agree with Marcus. Get on that website, put an intelligent comment down, something that that makes sense that they can't easily reject. And two, just don't stop there. The FFA, they're not lawmakers. Marcus pointed out, your congressmen are the lawmakers. They just work for the law. They kind of work for the lawmakers. So really, you want to go above the FFA's head and contact your lawmaker. He's the one that's getting hit by the lobbyists, not the FFA themselves. The lobbyists has pressured your congressman to do this. So they're ultimately the ones that you have to get to. Now, I mean, you comment to the FFA, they can push back for you. But really, if you can get to the source, the congressmen, the ones that are getting hit up by these lobbyists to change this stuff for the big corporations, that's getting to the heart of the matter.
Yeah.
So,
Hey, it's also worth mentioning that both Lauren and Bill Thomas are saying it was there a risk assessment done. So to my knowledge, everything that I saw in that 300-page document was anecdotal. I don't know that there were, I could be wrong, but I don't believe there were any studies, unless you guys know of them.
No, I didn't see any at all. And, I didn't see any, what they call proof of concepts either, as far as that's concerned in that document. I mean, whenever you put together a proposal like this, and especially, from having worked in IT for over 30 years, you have to have a proof of concept that this is going to work. In terms of, the storage space you'll take up, the response time for users, just a whole host of things. You have to have these things down before you go to VPs to get their approval to get the budgeting for the system. You have to get that. And I think this was done half shot. I don't think that they really thought through this. They just wanted to get something out there, and what they got out there was a disaster. I just, for no ifs, ands, or buts, it's a disaster. But like Brendan said, we agree that we need, Brendan's right. We do need remote ID, but not like how the federal government has proposed it. So let's hope and cross our fingers that this gets taken care of. Question of the day: what do you think of DJI's response to the FAA Remote ID proposal? Let me know in the comments section below. Thanks so much for watching, and remember, it's a great day to fly.